Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to another edition of Everflow Fireside Chats. And today I am joined by Ben Hellier. Is that the correct pronunciation, Ben?
You can call me hell yeah, whatever suits you, Zach. Absolutely.
Good. Well, thanks for joining us. And is it possible, you're a well-known figure on LinkedIn, and we're going to be covering some of those things today, but is it possible maybe you could give like a brief introduction of your good self, the business that you kind of represent, and yeah, like what people are always interested, it's a corny first question, but like, what's been your sort of journey so far to get to this point within the industry?
It's corny, but I love it, right? That's the first thing I want to know about everyone else is what's your story? How did you kind of get here? And I'll tell you it's going to be the elevator pitch, but this is the Burj Khalifa. This elevator is going to take a while, okay? So I got into the e-commerce industry about 11 years ago, and basically I fell into it by complete accident. I got out of university, went to a recruiter and was like, look, put me somewhere where I can sell. And they just chucked me in at the first thing they could find. And I absolutely loved it. I loved the speed of e-commerce. I loved the amount of kind of different angles there were to it, the channels, the marketing, everything that went with it. So I jumped straight into the daily deals world, and I worked with that business for about 8 years. So I was employee number 8. By the time I left, it was employee number 218. So I saw a lot of change in that company. I'm now with a much larger e-commerce marketplace group called Go Groupie, and that journey has really opened my eyes to a lot of different things. So what we realized quite early on, about 4 years ago, is when you're an e-commerce marketplace, you learn a lot about your users. You're sitting on tons and tons of data. And although just before this, I was saying that I really believe in people more than data, data is still so important. We know who our customers are, where they are, what they're buying, and when they're buying it. Now, that data is incredibly powerful because guess what? We're not going to serve everything that user wants and what they need. So what we can do is use strategic partners to deliver those things that we're missing. So we started off by, let's say you bought an iPhone on our platform. That iPhone, that's going to need a SIM card. It's going to need insurance. If you're buying baby products, I can assume that you either have a baby or having a baby or know someone that's about to, and we can market different ancillary services to you. And it worked really, really well. What happened with our business is we basically ran out of media, and we were getting requests for very niche user databases. Now, at first, the sales part of me was like, do you know what? If you've got a square peg and I've got a round hole, I'm going to force that in and I'm going to make it fit because I want to take your money. That's incredibly short term. So eventually I sat down and I looked at all the different places we were advertising ourselves with incredibly effective media, very niche customer bases, rang up every single one of them and said, I can do a better job than you. I can bring in brands that you don't currently access that will complement your user base. So NetRev now is a publisher / media agency. We've got about 32 websites. We reach 34 million users, and it's all hyper profiled. So basically when we work with a brand, we ask 2 initial questions. What does your customer look like? And what are you looking to achieve? And then we come up with campaigns to make that make that advertiser work, and we deliver results. So that is probably the longest intro you've ever had, but hopefully it gives a whistle-stop tour to kind of who we are, what we do, and how I've got here. And it's always been a first for more, to be honest, Zach. Yeah. Having the e-commerce business wasn't enough. Let's find other things that we can do, other ways that we can make money, other ways we can make our partners happy. Because when we only had the one lane, we couldn't please everyone. Lots of partners these days, they want that data directly, right? So selling on marketplaces and things isn't right for them. Having this performance engine means it's opened up the doors. There's no one that we can't work with and help anymore.
So just so I understand that, so you've got the Go Groupie group, as it were, and then is NetRev a part of that? And as I understand it, you guys are the publisher arm. And from what I understand from previous conversations, you also act as an agency in some regard. Is that right? So how would you actually work? Let's say I'm a brand that comes to you and they are speaking to the Go Groupie group, as it were. Does NetRev then say, great, you're looking for traffic, let's pass it over, to the NetRev division will then take over from that? And what does that journey look like from the brand to the final delivery of a discrete customer base?
Yeah, absolutely. So the two businesses sit side by side. They're not the same company, but they very much are sister businesses of each other. So the way that it works right now is you may approach GoGroupy, you may approach NetRev, you may approach Mighty Deals, you may approach Discount Experts, whatever the kind of faces that we're kind of operating under.
I
And
see. It's like
this,
a family of
yeah,
businesses. Yeah.
absolutely. But we'll always ask the same thing. You know,
Mm.
what is it you're looking to achieve? And so let's say you come into GoGroupy and you initially you think, okay, look, I want to sell to these users, and I want to get data and things. If that's not right, the GoGroupy rep will tell you that is not right. You need to be speaking to NetRev. NetRev will drive your traffic directly. They will help with your sales. If you're speaking to NetRev and NetRev identify that actually, look, we can help you, but actually selling through this marketplace it's all on commission based. There's no risk to you. We will also introduce that part of the business. What I've really learned over the years as well is when I started out, everything that I learned and everything I knew, I didn't tell anyone. I kept everything close to my chest because that's how I make money. I ain't fucking telling you anything, because otherwise this is going to cut me out the picture. These days, I tell everyone everything. And the reason for that is I want the relationship. If,
Mm.
for example, if we're working together and I know that there's Paul over here that I'm not going to get anything from directly by introducing to you, but him and you could probably do some good business together. I'm going to introduce you to Paul. And the reason for that being, Zach, is you're going to remember that. And our bond is going to get closer. So the next time that you think you can do something with me, I'm top of mind. You think that Ben guy, he's good. They help me out. Like I'm willing to help them out. The game has changed for me completely in that respect. And
Well,
that's where
this
the
this
agency side came from.
gotcha. Well, this is the theme that we kind of mapped out together, which is, sounds a bit highfalutin, but I think it kind of does make sense, right? That business is a creative endeavor, and like you and I are kind of initially like LinkedIn, like digital buddies, right? We've never actually met and shaken hands in real life, but we do know each other through particularly your LinkedIn presence. I connected with you, I think, on LinkedIn and said, can we do anything? Or actually, maybe I badgered you early on when I first started at Everflow.
Let's not go into that.
And and yeah, I think kind of like what one thing that'd be great to touch on as well is this kind of creative endeavor of coming and seeing the agency, having this new approach to doing something and building something from that. And then on the LinkedIn side, like, you know, this kind of element of authenticity, of sharing, connecting with people and standing out from the noise that's out there. And also lots of people post lots of stuff about, hey, this new privacy law might affect you, which is great and can be very interesting and all the rest of it. But you're right, people actually remember the human aspect of what we do within the industry. So let's start on that creative thing. Then, can you talk about how your mindset has changed from where you were previously, kind of hoarding this knowledge, and what's led to you changing, you being creative with the position you're in, and what did that look like before, and what does it look like afterwards?
I think for me, it's been a real evolution over time. Like it's certainly not happened overnight, and my mindset's not changed. You know, just from one job to the other. It's been a series of kind of working for different people, seeing things through different ways, and getting just really good exposure to different parts of the business, the industry that we're in, and things. I think the way that I kind of see it is I've always worked for startups. Well, for the last 11 years at least. Before that, you know, during my early years, corporates and things when you're at university and stuff like that, yep, absolutely makes sense. But since then, it's been startups, and the one of the things that dawned on me after a few years of just I'm doing my job, I'm hitting my KPIs, I know that I'm gonna get a pat on the back and I'm gonna get my commission and all that stuff, is that actually if I want to get from A to B and I'm an ambitious motherfucker, I've got to create that path and I've got to push myself down it, because quite often in a startup, that's not going to happen for you. No one's going to hold you by the hand and go, right, okay, if you do this, this, and this, and this, then you're going to make more money. You're going to be more successful. You're going to get better at your job. People are going to respect you more, whatever. You are that person that goes, right, if I put this process in place, that'll make everyone else's life easier, which makes us more efficient, and then we can achieve more. It's all down to you. Startups don't have the luxury of having several different cogs moving in that same way. Sometimes you've got to just be that water wheel on your own pumping change. And for
Mm.
me, that's been a really, really big part of kind of my development.
And was that ambition always there, Ben, or has that fire been stoked with success, as it were?
I think six one half dozen of the other. I was fortunate and unfortunate in my upbringing in many ways. Like I don't come from an incredibly wealthy background or anything like that. So everything that I have and everything that I do is earned. But I come from a family that were very hardworking. So on a Saturday morning, for an example, you had two choices. Yes, you could go play football with your friends if you wanted to, or you could go down the building site and you could learn a trade and you could get paid for that time. And that's what I did every single weekend. So that kind of, you put work in, you get something out, was instilled in me, before it was legal. But it's taught me that kind of work ethic, and then just that competitive nature of wanting to be better, wanting more. That's something that's just grown and grown and will continuously grow in me. It's a double-edged sword, because I think, truth be told, if you ask a lot of people and they were really honest, will you ever be happy with everything you have? The answer is
Mm.
probably no. I could drive a Ferrari. It's not two Ferraris. I
Yeah.
would all
Well, yeah, I'm sure you've heard that one. Success is getting what you want. Happiness is liking what you get. And there's a very fine balance between that in life, isn't there? Of trying to maximize your own potential, because the internet is, talk about influencers. The internet is just chock full of people that, the Tony Robbins of this world, right down to whoever, right? And maximizing your own potential, and that journey that we're all on. From my personal perspective, I kind of came to that quite late, in a sense, you know what I mean, of like pushing myself a bit more and all that kind of stuff. But so that's been something that you learn. And then obviously with NetRev, you were mentioning that, there was a creative aspect that you liked about putting together different pieces and creating this kind of canvas. Could you sort of talk about how NetRev was when you either first joined, or when that was sort of born, as it were, and what it looks like now?
Yeah, absolutely. So NetRev, when I joined the Go Groupie group, was nothing but a domain and an idea. And it wasn't the idea the way that it is now at all. It was, I think, originally the idea of NetRev was that it would be a group of marketplaces that could reach different user types. But that was too small for me. What I realized was, well, rather than us kind of constantly tell people who we are and what we do, let's grow to what people want and what people need. So everything that we've done has kind of been with the idea of, okay, let's try things. Let's see if it works. If it works and the clients want that, let's do more of that. And I think we've really seen that with yourselves, especially this year in particular. So at first it was, okay, let's try and monetize Go Groupie in a different way. And then when that didn't work for all of our clients because they were looking for a certain user type, it was like, okay, can we actually get what these clients want, these particular users? Simple answer was yes. Now it's changed again, and it's more, can we now, with our clients, can we help them grow into other areas? So that some people have come to me recently, and this is a good example with you guys. We've got the admissions reclaims and some of the legal financial services working with you guys. Certainly wasn't in my plans at all. But when they came to us and said, look, these are the kind of users we want, I was like, yeah, okay, we've got some of these. But actually, I know someone else that's got some more of them. Now, they're not part of the agency, but I can introduce you to them, and that's going to create stickiness. What's happened now is this client's come to us and they're like, look, help us with everything. Do you know someone in offline? Do you know something about our conversion rates? And we're working with them on some really huge and interesting projects because we've won their trust and because we've listened to their business. And now we're starting to create services that will complement what they're doing purely by listening to them. This year we've just taken on our first TikToker. We're just about to sign on our first podcast sponsorships. We've never got involved in those worlds before, but some of our advertisers are telling us, I'm keen to get involved in that kind of media. Can you help us? It's like, why not? Let's give it a go. The worst thing that can happen is it fails. Everything else is working. Let's try.
Mm. Interesting, very interesting. And your user base within NetRev how do you categorize that? Is it mainly kind of English speaking countries, UK mainly, or what does it look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose the blue sky scenario of NetRev is to reach every demographic in every geographic. I'm not overly interested in mass audiences for the sake of having a mass audience. Doesn't make sense to me. What I like is having profiled users in these demographics and geographics. So new mums, police officers, something that's distinctive about that user that then I can use to find the right brands for those users. Right now, we are primarily in the UK. We reach Canada, we reach Europe, we reach US. We're getting a bit larger in Ireland, so that area is starting to spread. But UK was where we started and wanted to prove concept. That concept has absolutely been proven. So now let's just keep going.
Mm. And how do you reach those consumers? Do you have like owned and operated sites, or are you doing email marketing, or what's the ways of actually getting those brands into those eyeballs?
Yeah, and yet again, this kind of goes back to the brand, right? So them first two questions that we ask people: who is your customer, and what does success look like to you? Then will kind of define how NetRev goes out and finds more of those customers. Now, look, we don't want to get in PPC, we don't want to get involved in social media and things like that, because there's people that do that far better than we do. And I'd be a fool to try and learn that at this stage when I'm very, very good at other things. So we own and operate a group of email databases, push marketing tools, but that's what we're great at, right? We don't want to compete with Amazon. I don't want to compete with Google. If people know exactly what they want to buy already, they're going to one of those two places. What we're very good at is using first party data. So either data that we own or data that we have a strategic partnership with. And we push that message right in front of the customer's face via email, push notification, close to social media group, something along those lines, and scream and shout, this is something that we think you should look at. And if you've got the right brand, the right user, and you've got 100% share of voice in that moment, it will work. But it's about looking at that journey as well. You can't just, a lot of people can come into this and they can just throw money into affiliate marketing, right? And partnership marketing, or whatever else you want to call it. And it's very easy to dig a big hole very, very quickly. Not enough people, I think, are looking at that journey and being honest about it. So one of the first things us and our sales reps do when we look at that journey is start looking at your data capture points, start looking at your conversion parts, and give a really truthful and honest feedback about capturing that email address, using things like exit intent, making sure, because if you've got that email address from that customer, guess what? You haven't got to pay to me to market to that customer again. Lots of people think I'm shooting myself in the foot by saying things like that, because I can sell you that email again and again and again. But yet again, if I can make you happy and I can educate you and I can provide you with value outside of just my traditional service, other things from you will land on my plate.
And I guess this leads us on to the second part of this discussion of LinkedIn. You're a pretty prolific poster on LinkedIn, and you're always pushing out your own personal brand. Like what have you learned? And I know this is a leading question, right? Because the best people that post things are either sharing something that's of interest or sharing something that people can learn from, right? And delivering that value, whether it's human interest or professional value or whatever.
Yeah.
But what have you found from your LinkedIn journey? Because you're a big fan of it, right? And
love it.
Whenever we talk, you always say it's a great channel for individuals. How did that start, and like where are you? What's the things that you've learned from the LinkedIn activity?
Well, first of all, I think the line between individual and business, I don't think there is a line, to be really, really honest. Lots of people, think there is, but the first thing I say to anyone when they meet me is, oh, I run a media agency, I run a publisher agency. That's almost like how I define myself as an individual. Be that wrong or right, that is the first thing that comes to my mind. I spend more time working like the rest of us do and with our work colleagues than we do with our family. So I don't think there can really be that definitive black and white anymore. And in the
Hmm.
age of social media and LinkedIn, it has all become kind of one melting pot, right? Like if you
Mm.
get, how many people get a CV through the door and the first thing they do is look at that person on LinkedIn?
Mm.
Because it's not just about that person's skills, it's about that person's personality, and it's kind of all one in the same. LinkedIn, I've been a big fan of since day one. The fact that you can kind of reach out to people and have one-on-one conversations as a sales rep, I think is absolutely invaluable. But I've had a bit of a learning curve and journey with it and tried to use it as a bit of a personal tool for me to learn and develop, to be honest. So when I first started out on LinkedIn, it was a little bit like, let's just use this as a sales tool. Let's use this as a way of connecting to people and building our brand message. And I still absolutely think there's a place for it. And I would encourage any sales rep that I work with. And if you ask my team, they all get on LinkedIn. They all reach out to people all the time. It's such an valuable tool in that respect. But where I saw a big change in it was when I thought, you know what, I'm going to use LinkedIn as a tool to be accountable. I'm not going to just post about, oh, we're NetRev and we've got 34 million users now. I'm going to use this to address some personal things that maybe I'm not so good at. So if you look back through my posts and things, I talk about sobriety. I talk about trying to get back into health and fitness after having children. I talk about things like the depression and things that I've suffered over the years. I don't like talking about any of those things, but posting it out there forces me to talk about those things and forces me to be open about it. I wasn't expecting to go onto this topic today at all, but I'm glad we have, because it's outside of my comfort zone and it's forcing me to do something for much the same reason that I would on LinkedIn. And people resonate with that. People want to hear your stories. We want to support each other. Businesses are made of people, and that is the fundamental kind of floor part of where all of this starts. Any business that is really successful is founded and ran by great people and supported by great people. Partnerships that are successful, it's not just because the products might work together, it's because some great people made that work together. That's where it starts. And that's kind of what I've tried to do with my LinkedIn over the years, is not just use it as a vessel to grow the business, but use it as a vessel to grow me.
Mm. Yeah, very interesting. And that takes a lot of courage, doesn't it? Because, you know, when the first thing I would say about, you know, the small journey that I've taken of putting some focus on LinkedIn is, firstly, you know, it's kind of like that thing of when you're at a certain age, you know, before you're 30, you're really worried what everyone thinks. And then after 30, you don't care what anyone thinks. And then when you get past 60, you realize that no one cared anyway. You know, and it's kind of like the biggest, you know, for anyone that's thinking of starting, and we've got some people at Everflow that are just starting their careers, that, you know, like in the partnerships team, like, you know, Remy's doing this great job of becoming like a very well-known woman in tech and so on. And a big thing of that is kind of consistency and just putting stuff out there and trying to add value and not really caring necessarily too much, in a way of like, okay, no one's liked this, no one's seen it. It's about kind of a bigger thing, isn't it? Of like, because people do see it, they just don't comment and things like that. And you are slowly, you know, like that drip in the bathtub, you're slowly filling up that, so that then it starts to do that. So have you found that it has held you accountable in that sense, by posting stuff on sobriety or getting back into fitness? Has it forced you to, you know, that if, let's say we've got affiliate huddle coming up, you know that people are going to maybe come up to you and say, hey, how's it going? And reveal something about themselves that they don't necessarily want to share publicly. Have you got that feedback loop that keeps you going in that sense?
100%. There has not been a single time that I've posted, on LinkedIn about a personal message where someone hasn't wrote to me and said, that resonated with me. Thank you for doing that. Here's my story. Or every single event I've gone to since I changed my kind of approach to LinkedIn, at least 2-3 people per event will come up to me and talk to me about it. And these may be people I've never met before, but have seen it because someone else has liked, someone else has commented. I've got a new connection request from that person. It opens up a lot of doors. And the truth of the matter is it's a little bit self-serving in a way for the business still, because if I create that human connection with someone, naturally that first thing that I define myself by, that's going to come up in conversation. So if there is an opportunity, once we've connected about maybe some of the issues that we've been going through, maybe the self-doubt that I've dealt with that week, or the kind of internal pressures of my own mind, maybe someone else has seen that and gone, oh look, I want to talk to Ben about that. But then while we're having that conversation, maybe there's something mutually beneficial in our businesses that we can do together. And I really, really.
But I get the impression with you, and sorry for me interrupting.
Yeah, please.
I get the impression though that, like, okay, that potential business is just a kind of byproduct. It's not the central way that you're doing it, isn't it? It's not a kind of sneaky way to, hey, I'm going to reveal something about myself. And I know it's not, and I'm not saying it is. But isn't that the cool thing, that we are in the tech business, we are in the tech industry, but I agree with you 100%. Like, we are still like organic matter. You know what I mean? We are people. We're not noughts and ones. We're not computers. We're not noughts and ones. And so that human connection, even though there might be absolutely nothing to do with business there, if someone connects with you and says, you know what, Ben is a good guy, like, I'm speaking to someone 3 months down the line that, oh, I'm going to introduce them to Ben,
Well, there you go, right? It's, if I help you out with something, you remember me. If I'm human with you, you remember me. I've made an impression on you. Now, like you say, none of those things that's not the sole reason that I'm doing it at all. It's not even coming to mind when I post up something about how I've had a struggling time or things like that. It's to be accountable, to not hide away from those feelings and bottle things up anymore. That's my purpose anyway. I think people are really good detectors of bullshit. And especially when you've got a network like you or I have, we're salespeople naturally, and you don't bullshit a bullshitter. If someone starts posting things out there that you can just see through it, that is going to do more harm than good, in my opinion. So you either legitimately be yourself and wear your heart on your sleeve, or don't bother. Post about the normal kind of business stuff that you're expected to.
And so do you have any kind of like top tips of people that are maybe looking to build their own personal brand? I mean, obviously you've kind of said authenticity and passion is a part of that, and so on. What kind of, top 5 or top 3 tips would you say about someone that wants to build their personal brand, whatever stage in their career there are, because it's never too late, right?
No, absolutely. The first thing is getting out there and starting it, right? It doesn't matter if you've got 2 connections at first. It doesn't matter if you've got no connections or whatever. Just get out there, start a LinkedIn. Every time you go to a show and you come back with that big wedge of business cards, add them people on LinkedIn. Add LinkedIn to your signature strip. Make it more of something that's kind of there continuously. Businesses are a little bit, I think, scared of telling their employees to do it, because in a way that employee is building their own black book, and that black book is unplugged and follows that person with them for the rest of their lives. But some of the people I work with 12 years ago, I still work with now, and I've gone through different jobs and everything else, but we can reconnect on LinkedIn, we can text, whatever else it might be. But those relationships follow you. So it's so valuable. In terms of kind of being authentic and posting, I would say the priority of things to do is understand yourself. And for me, that meant, going to therapy, dealing with someone professional that helped me understand kind of what my priorities were, and writing your priorities down and kind of grading them. I remember one of the exercises was writing all these things down and then grading them of where you think they should be, and grading them there of actually where they are in priority. And seeing that difference makes you realign everything all of a sudden and go, shit, I'm not looking after certain things that I really should be. Or actually in my head, I'm saying that, oh, I should be worried about this, but it's really, in the big scheme of things, it's nothing. So move past it. But once you understand really who you are and what's important to you, then you can be authentic.
And I agree. I mean, I think kind of like what's interesting in the whole company thing, my experience within Everflow is that it's been a very enlightened approach that people encourage people to, but not forcing, because some people, they don't want to be mixing their personal and professional lives. And there is this blend now. So I think it's good that where companies don't force people to post, but usually a good sign is when people are posting, right, about their company. It shows that they are interested in it, and you know, and that's important as well.
One thing I must admit I don't like though is businesses that I read something the other day that a really prolific LinkedIn poster posted up, Andy Barden. You've probably come across him before. Ran several different businesses. Really, really nice guy. He posted up about working for businesses that didn't like him posting on LinkedIn and wanted to control that narrative. That really rubs me up the wrong way. And it's alarm bells. Why is a business wanting control in essence, it's a personal social media channel for that individual. And it tells me really quite negative things. If a business wants to control that messaging, they're worried about that messaging for a reason. Just something that I saw, I was like, wow, that's completely wrong. Try and build a culture where people want to, like you say, because it's incredible. If it's coming up organically, how positive and how powerful is that?
Definitely. Well, also as well, it does seem counterproductive, doesn't it? Because let's say most people that are going to be on LinkedIn are going to be natural extroverts, whatever their position, whether it's sales or whatever. And, you know, to some degree, LinkedIn has kind of degenerated into the sort of the Facebook that people use during office hours, which is kind of, you know, James is eating a banana or whatever. It's like, no one cares, you know, but, kind of, I think kind of like is counterproductive, isn't it? If you employ someone who has this black book, who has a presence, who has this social footprint, why on earth would you try and put sort of guardrails around that person? You need to encourage them to continue to build that and to grow, right? And to fit within like a corporate box of, go back to your point, people connect with people. People don't connect with a logo. It's what the logo represents, isn't it? Often that's either an ideal, like Nike celebrating athleticism or excellence, or something like Apple, which to me resonates of service as well as the technology. You know, you go into the Apple store, you're made to feel good and all the rest of it. So it is very important. And
but you're
the
right,
last thing,
human connection, right? That follows you. The product or service doesn't necessarily. So if you were to unplug from Everflow, and I know you never would, please don't take that the wrong way. I'm sorry, Everflow overlords. But if you did, and let's say you went and sold Nike shoes, for an example, all of those people that have followed you on this journey and buy into you, Zach, as Everflow, will buy into you, Zach, as Nike. That is just the way it works. People follow people.
So thinking of the future then, and thanks for that, those are great tips. Like, what would you see, like, going back to like the business aspect of it, where do you see like net rev sort of going in this year, and what kind of initiatives are you guys working on at the moment?
So net rev really itself is only about 8 months old. It's quite a new business in terms of, I don't think anyone's approached this space as a publisher agency before, and it's really, really interesting, and I'm very, very excited for it. March was bigger than November for us, which tells me that we're doing something right, given that November is peak season. So that, you know, we're doing everything that we should be doing. For me now, the next step is building resources internally. Up until this point, we've been running really, really streamlined, which is great because it means that we're agile and we can respond to things quickly, but it's not great because we're very, very stretched and doing every hour underneath the sun. So building up those capacities to scale this up is very, very important for me. I think I still want to carry on everything else the same. So that's when we work with a brand, what are the things that we're delivering? We're delivering the option to work with multiple medias, multiple geographies that are all proven that we can hang our hat on and say, this is stuff that we do ourselves and it works. they only have one point of contact. They've got one point of billing. They've got one point of reporting. It makes life so much easier for them. And for the publishers, it's helping them establish themselves as a commercial entity that can actually thrive. A lot of people come into this space, they've got fantastic audiences, they've got great reaches, but they just don't know how to monetize that, rightly or wrongly, with the right partners, with the right strategies that are built for long-term success. And that's the bit that we want to get involved in and that we're enjoying.
Cool. Great. Well, it's been a pleasure to talk to you as always, and looking forward to seeing you in real life, as they say, later this month at Affiliate Huddle. But Ben Hellier from NetRev, thanks very much.
If you want to hear more, I'll be on the demo stage there as well.